Hello, my name's Jared Bloomgren. I'm from South Dakota. In working with this one arrow project, it puts a lot of thoughts in my head. How do you pick one arrow? Is that even a thing to pick just one arrow? I like to think that one arrow will always get the job done. And if you bow hunt long enough, you do know that eventually you'll be given a circumstance to where you can't just rely on one arrow. So although one arrow is like what I like to think about most times, and just having one arrow that's going to get the job, sometimes that's not the thing. So I like to take a bit of a different approach and not think about it as one arrow. I like to go through and build a dozen arrows at a time, and I like to replicate the process for every arrow, each arrow being built identical. Although we know that sometimes you'll have one arrow that is a flyer and it's not the arrow that you believe in, right? But that's why you build 12 of them. And you go through and you shoot those arrows and you weed out one of those arrows that might not be something you want in your arsenal. But regardless of what I do, it's whether I'm building an arrow with the SK2s, which has always been a favorite of mine, or the Silent Night. It's each of them have their place in my arsenal. And, this just happened to be this bowl above me. This is my one arrow that got it done. It's still all bloody. Silent Night. I love my red, white, and blue colors. I'm the United States. I everything I do, my bowstrings, my fletching, my wraps, everything's red, white, and blue. I'm a patriot, so those are the colors I've been sticking to. I started shooting Flex-Fletch back in 2011 and religiously in 2012, and it's the only vein I've used since then. And when I'm building my arrows, I know that I have veins that are going to perform for me. And, there was days where when my kids were younger, they would kiss one arrow in my quiver. And my wife would do the same for me sometimes. And that was the arrow that I chose to be my first arrow that was going to take an animal. And a lot of times that arrow is what got it done for me. So I like to go through and look at my arrows and make sure they're built the way I expect them to be built. They fly the way I expect them to fly. And my one arrow is usually the first one in the quiver closest to the back of the bow, closest to my string. That is where my one arrow will sit. And I believe wholeheartedly that that one arrow will get the job done. In the event that that one arrow does not, whether I miss an animal and lose that arrow, I would like to make sure that my number 2, my number 3, my number 4, and my number 5, and my number 6 in my quiver will all perform to the level that my one arrow will. So I guess I don't go through and just pick one arrow and one arrow only. I like to have them all live up to the standard that I have set forth to be able to take that animal. And, I'm no tournament archer by any means, but I do feel that every one of my arrows needs to perform to the level I need to make sure I have the accuracy to effectively and humanely take down an animal. So, in a nutshell, my one arrow might be 1 through 6 in my quiver, but each arrow has a standard to adhere by. And so I have no grandiose way to choose just one arrow for the hunt. But I do have ways to weed out arrows that maybe don't fly as good as the others. But the 6 that I go to the field with in my quiver, all will perform to the standard that I feel that I need to have. So whether it's a SK2, if it's a Silent Night, I've shot a lot of the longer veins in the past, the 360s, what have you. They all are expected to perform at any given time. And in this arrow here with this bull, it just happened to be that one arrow that did it. It was the first arrow in the quiver. It was the arrow that was knocked dozens of times, waiting for that perfect opportunity. And that was my one arrow in that instance. The bull back there, the one arrow that did that bull happened to be the one that I placed first in that quiver. Same with the deer. Yeah, one arrow. Believe in that one arrow. Believe in every arrow that's in your quiver. It's going to make you a better archer. It's going to give you that confidence that you need out in the field, right? That one arrow is what you need. So best of luck to you out there. However you choose your one arrow, just make sure it's what you got. Take care and God bless.